Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. So today we have some news that's come out about Disney Plus, which will be premiering later this year, and uh, we're going to see a lot of stuff coming out, and they've made some announcements that they're going to be, as expected, they're going to be including Fox properties as well in their streaming service, since they now own the entire film library from Fox Studios. Um, But even more interesting is that they've stated that they are going to be doing remakes of various Fox properties that are going to be put on the Disney Plus streaming service exclusively. So we're going to see remakes of Home Alone, Night at the Museum, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and Cheaper by the Dozen. Now, obviously the big one there is Home Alone. Night at the Museum is also fairly big, and then Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Cheaper by the Dozen are kind of minor family properties. Now, these all do line up basically in Disney's wheelhouse of family-friendly properties, and we all kind of get that. And I think that's really why these properties were chosen for the most part. Some of them were not terribly successful. I know Diary of a Wimpy Kid had two films, I believe, that came out in theaters. I believe also it was based off of a novel before that, but it had two film adaptations, and then eventually it was kind of put out to pasture. But from what I understand, it didn't have amazing returns, and also it hasn't been made clear yet if these are going to necessarily be film adaptations, if these are going to be films that premiere on the Disney Plus streaming service, or if these are going to be some kind of a series that they're going to put on there. So knowing that. They also put out that Disney Plus is going to launch, and some of these announcements are a little bit old. Some of them are a few days to a week old. We learned that Disney Plus is going to be $12.99, and it is going to launch both with Hulu and ESPN Plus. So you're going to have sports content as well as Hulu content on there as well. So they're lumping Hulu in with Disney Plus, which makes sense since I believe Disney owns about 70% of Hulu. So now you have that, and we also have, apparently they're going to premiere with 300 films and over 7,000 episodes of television shows. Again, most of those I would assume are going to be from the Fox mantle. I assume we're going to have stuff like The Simpsons, depending on who own. I don't believe they own the rights to Futurama anymore, but there's a number of series that will be on there. Family Guy, I'm sure, will be on there in some respect. So they are. So now we have kind of a look of what we're going to get with Disney Plus, and they are coming into this thing hard. And we all kind of expected this because a large part of the Disney Fox buyout was the fact that they wanted to get into the streaming service and they wanted to be able to bolster their content, not just from ripping content, not just from putting on their own content, but from ripping content from Netflix and from acquiring the content from Fox, which I'm assuming will also leave Netflix eventually as well. So not only are you kneecapping the competition, you are helping yourself. And I've gone over this a little bit in the past when I was talking about how Netflix and Disney are going to have to go head to head and see who wins in this scenario. Now, uh, knowing that, the properties that they are going to remake, which is really more or less the main point of this video, I would write off Cheaper by the Dozen, and I would write off Diary of a Wimpy Kid, just because I don't think anybody really gives a shit about those properties for the most part. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I think less so even than Cheaper by the Dozen. Cheaper by the Dozen was the more recent films. I believe it was a remake from a '70s film series, or a film in the '70s. There were two films that were made with Steve Martin. And basically, just I think he's a grandpa with 12 kids or something like that. I forget exactly what the premise is, but it's something by where they have 12 children. Um, so you have those two, but again, I would write those off. They seem like they're going to be really, really low budget. They don't need a lot of money to bring those things to life. It's not really anything that would require a lot of money to do. But then you have the other two. Now, Home Alone's another one where I don't think you need a lot of money to do it. But Home Alone has a very predictable premise, and we've seen it many, many times. Now, Home Alone 1 and 2, which starred Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, and Daniel Stern, um, were fairly good films, but again, they basically had the exact same premise: is burglars trying to break into a house where there's just one kid home alone by himself, and he fights them off with a bunch of homemade booby traps, and hilarity ensues. Those are the first two films. That's actually the premise of basically of all the films. Then we had Home Alone 3 and 4, which I believe went direct to DVD, and I think maybe 5. I don't know if they made any after 4. I know they at least made 4. But this is a premise that has been done before, and it has been worn out already. And I think that even if you're going to do a reboot of it now, I feel like it's just going to be another one of those things. It's like, okay, you can't really do much with it. You can't spin it a different way unless they actually murder the kid or something. It's really not, unless you try to make it like realistic, where he's like killing the guys, and you make it like a hard R, which I know Disney won't do because they're rebooting a family property, but it feels like something that you can't really put any kind of a new spin on. Now, Night at the Museum is a bit of a different animal, and there's been two of them. I believe they both starred Ben Stiller. I know the first one did. But it's basically an idea where he's a security guard in a museum, and at night the exhibits at the museum come to life and go around and cause havoc. Um, and you can play around with that idea to a decent amount. You can have different things. You can play around with the characters and stuff like that. Really, the only constant should be the security guard character. Everything else in the film you can kind of play around with. So that might be a property that would actually be adapted to a decent degree, if they choose to play around with it a bit. But the other three are basically either nobody gives a shit, or with Home Alone, it's a premise that really can't be altered too much unless you destroy the original vision. And again, that doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you just scrap it and go with an original property. But this is what they're going to start doing, though, with some of the lesser Fox properties, or some of the Fox properties that haven't been in theaters for a while. They're going to start adapting this stuff, and they're going to start making Disney Plus exclusives, because again, they want to take that stuff away from Netflix. So this is the start of what is probably going to be a landslide of stuff you're going to see in the near future. Now, there were a couple other minor announcements. They did say they want to make more Planet of the Apes movies, so okay, whatever. That's just, something else. Um, and they also announced that Fox Searchlight will be making movies for Disney Plus. Um, so Fox is still a brand technically, but I guess what they're going to be doing is, instead of just absorbing them directly into the Disney studios, they're going to leave them as their own entity, but they're going to be kind of like a satellite studio, almost like what Lionsgate does. With I don't know why I can't remember the Lionsgate does with Warner Brothers and stuff like that. They're going to be a sub studio. So Fox and Fox Searchlight are going to be sub studios. So any of the franchises that are directly attached to them, like Avatar and stuff like that, they're probably going to wind up being released through Fox. They're going to be made by those studios, but Disney is going to be the parent company, so they own all the products and they control what goes down the pipeline. So that's what we're going to see from that. And there's also rumors that Fox Searchlight might be putting out rated R MCU properties, or Marvel or other properties, that certain things like the Deadpool films. It's no secret that Once Upon a Deadpool, which came out last Christmas, did not do very well. It was a PG-13 cut of Deadpool 2, and they spliced in some weird footage of Fred Savage to kind of remind you of Princess Bride for some reason. And um, that did not fare well. People did not like that. People like Rated R Deadpool. Rated R Deadpool works, and it is really, really good. Now, I will say Deadpool 2 I did not like as much as the original Deadpool, but I do think it is still a relatively good and funny movie for the most part. But moving forward, they are experimenting with the idea of possibly releasing rated R Marvel films out of Fox Searchlight, so that they don't have to brand them with the Disney brand, and it's kind of their way of getting around the whole family-friendly Disney thing, which I don't think would be a terrible idea. I've always said that they need to branch out into R-rated territory if they're going to keep things fresh. And if they do decide to do this, I think that the Blade film that they've announced would probably be another one that would be really good to release through this if they decide to do that. But that's something that's kind of floating around the rumor mill right now. And if they do decide to do that, I think it would be a good idea. But as for Disney Plus itself, they are coming in hard, and they're going to smash Netflix when this happens. And Netflix is going to take a serious hit in the marketplace. Now, whether or not they can bounce back and then keep up with Disney Plus is an entirely other scenario. Because, again, we don't know exactly what we know some of the stuff that Disney Plus has planned for original content. We know the Marvel stuff. We know some of the Star Wars stuff. We know now some of the Fox stuff that's going to be rebooted or reimagined. So there's a lot coming to this thing, and it's really it's not. They're giving you a lot more for close to the same amount of money as Netflix. So this could be a nail in the, this could be a very serious nail in the coffin for Netflix, and it is very concerning for them as a company because they have been losing ground in streaming services for years, but they've still kept their numbers, which is why they're still around. But this could be a serious hit. But that's just my opinion on the news. I'd like to know your opinion. Do you think Disney Plus is going to, dethrone Netflix? Do you plan on dropping Netflix for Disney Plus? If you've already dropped Netflix, do you plan on picking up Disney Plus? Put your thoughts in the comments. Again, I like to read them. I like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?